Welcome to an episode where I have a special guest today. Melissa Armstrong is on the podcast, and Melissa is all about things trauma recovery, mind body connection, empowering women to heal their mind, body, and spirit. So I knew this was going to be a perfect fit to bring on the show. She's actually a nurse turned trauma informed functional health coach, and she focuses on the mind body connection and the manifestation of physical illnesses or conditions from imbalances within the body. She specializes in helping women overcome personal and intergenerational trauma to heal their mind, body, spirit connection using functional medicine, lab testing, somatic practices, and lifestyle modifications. So, Melissa, we're really excited to have you and welcome on the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So, why? Why the jump from nurse to what you're doing now? Fill us
Oh
in.
yeah. That is that was a journey getting where I am now. I've been a nurse since 2010, so 14 years. And I knew pretty quickly when I got into traditional nursing, I worked in a pediatric ICU in a level one trauma center for the first 7 years of my career. And I knew pretty quickly that that really wasn't like the type of nursing I wanted to do. The ICU was incredible and I learned so much, but I just always felt like there was something more, like something we were missing. I was simultaneously dealing with my own kind of health journey. And when I really dove into the somatic work that helped me so much, I realized that that's the piece that I was missing in my career. And I really wanted to be able to help women recover from trauma like I had, using all of the additional like Eastern alternative modalities that we don't use in traditional nursing. So it was about 5 years ago, I jumped from like traditional nursing into more holistic nursing, did some work in various different like holistic clinics, and then opened my own practice early 2023.
So I love that we have that in common. The somatic piece ended up being the game changer. And I always love hearing other women too just come on and hear how you define somatic, because I think everyone by this point has heard it. It's a buzzword, but there's not a whole lot of, collective definition of it. So when you say that word, how do you define it?
So really getting out of your mind and into your body. And so I use personally and in my practice, I use meditation, tapping, and a lot of breath work. Those are like the three big modalities that I use. And I take all of my clients through different variations of those three practices to help them discover what works best for them, because it's not the same for every person. Some people resonate with meditation, some with tapping, some with
Mhm.
breath work. And it's really, you have to find what works for you in order for it to work. Because that's what I hear all the time is like, well, I've tried meditation, but it doesn't work. I can't quiet my mind, or I don't
Mhm.
find it better. It makes me more anxious. Like I hear all these things that like why it doesn't work. So that's why I take everybody through. And rather than just like giving them a piece of paper or like a email, like, hey, try this on your own time. It's like, no, I actually like walk them through because I feel like it forces them to try it.
That's the best place to do it. It's like I'm already showing up, this is my most likely time to actually practice this stuff. It's hard. It's really hard. When I started learning somatic stuff too, it just took discipline, to practice on my own, but at the same time, I also found this was the easiest stuff I'd ever tried when it comes to healing. I tried so many things that did feel more like jumping through hoops and these big journaling things and, intensives, and somatic just felt simple, almost too simple to be so powerful at the beginning. Like really just noticing sensations in my body, or just putting my hand over my heart and like holding myself and rocking myself to self-soothe. Like I either was judging it at the beginning, like this is so baby in preschool, or I was just like, wait, no way. It has to be harder or more complicated or something in order to work. And it's not. It's really just what you said. It's getting out of our head into our body. And I'm interested. I'm really intrigued, like with the jump that you made, because so you went from more traditional setting to holistic nursing. Did you get any persecution for that or concern or, judgment?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My friends and my family was, my husband was very supportive. His family was very supportive. My family, not so much. They don't understand. And lots of my friends that I went to nursing school with don't understand.
How would you handle that? Are you the people pleasing type that has to like be brave in those situations, or did it not really bother you?
I think it definitely bothered me. I want people to understand, but I've been able to, I mean, that's been a journey too for me, is like learning um how to not care what they
Yeah.
think, because really it's my own journey. It's personal to me, and this is I feel like what my calling is in the world.
Mm.
I think this is why God put me on this planet, is to do this exact work. And my whole story was like for this exact moment.
Yeah. I'd love to unpack more of that. So, what were the symptoms that were calling out to you specifically? And then, what did it look like once you brought in somatic work, like actual practical? If you could give us a rewind snapshot of this is exactly what I started doing and what started happening.
Yeah. So I have to give a little bit of backstory to really like understand the full picture. So my childhood was very traumatic. My parents were both addicts. They were abusive. My dad ended up like beat up my mom a lot, like right in front of us. And he ended up leaving. My parents divorced and he left the picture completely when I was about 6. After that, my mom had, then was a single mom with 4 kids, and was really, because of as I uncovered in my own healing journey, that she had experienced a lot of trauma herself as a kid, and in her relationship with my father and my brother's father, that she became very like verbally abusive to us, particularly to me, and emotionally unavailable. And so in my early like teenage years, I had a lot of anxiety, mental health issues, because I had no like stable parent that loved me unconditionally. And I really didn't know how I fit in with the world. And then I had some other really big traumatic things happen in my teenage years. I was at a school shooting, and then my brother was killed in an accident right in front of me when I was 18. So I was already like really not well before those major things happened as a teenager. And then when my brother died, it was just kind of like straight down, a very steep cliff.
Yeah.
I was really, really unwell emotionally. I had severe post traumatic stress disorder from everything that I had been through. Panic set in, like to the point where I couldn't sleep for days at a time. My anxiety was through the roof, depression, suicidal ideations. I was in and out of inpatient psychiatric stays. Um, I made the decision that I wanted to be a nurse at the time, like right after my brother died, because of our experience with the nurses in the hospital. He had a brain injury, so he was in the hospital but on life support for a period of time, because we decided to donate all of his organs. So there was like a period of like 36 to 48 hours that we were there, and the nurses were like angels on earth. And I just thought, like, this is what I'm meant to do. Like, I'm supposed to help people like this.
Yeah.
And so I made that decision, started college, and like the stress of everything that I had been through, the trauma that I had not dealt with, the lack of like healthy adult, input in my life, and then the added stress of like college and nursing school and all of those things, like my physical health really started to decline. I started having horrible like gastrointestinal issues. I started getting rashes all over my head. I had migraines like daily. Again, I didn't sleep like at all, like very rarely. And if I did, it was like, very broken, not quality sleep. So I was not well, emotionally or mentally, or physically, I mean. And I as I like tried to get help from my doctor as like a patient, you know, going to a doctor, I would be given like, oh yeah, you're depressed. Here's some antidepressants. Or, oh yeah, you've got panic or anxiety. Here's some benzodiazepines. Like take this Ativan
Yeah.
and you'll be fine. Or, oh, you've got rashes on your arms. Here's some steroids. Take this steroid weed for 5 days. Or do, you know, it wasn't ever really like they were never trying to figure out why I was so unwell. And I was like 21, 22, 23, like not super old, you know, not old and like having all this bad decision making in my life that's making me unwell. It was like I was really young and I shouldn't have been so sick. Um so at one point when I was about 23, my husband, my then boyfriend, now husband, suggested to me that I try meditation. He said, have you ever tried meditation? Like maybe this will, like you need something to calm yourself down because you are just so wound up all the time. And he was very loving about it, but he was just like, you like this is, he was reflecting back to me what he was seeing. And he was like, I think you need to just like calm down a little bit. And I had never tried it. So I tried it and almost immediately, like I can't even remember like how, but it was really quick because I don't think that I know for a fact that I would not have stuck with it if I didn't see something in it like pretty quickly. Um, so I started to feel a sense of, so I literally just meditated. What I started with was Deepak Chopra
Mhm.
and Oprah back in the day. I think they still do some like collaborations from time to time, but they used to put out this thing called 21-day meditation challenge. And they would do like a 21-day series. And I made a promise to myself one time, like right around the time that my husband told me that, like, I'm going to do this 21-day challenge and see if it works, see if it helps. And it freaking did.
Wow.
And so it's guided meditation. And I would do that like sitting on the floor in my room in front of my sliding glass door, like sitting in the sun. And I felt a sense of peace and like felt my body like calm and my mind calm for the first time ever in my whole life.
Mm.
And it was like that, those kinds of moments that I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? What is meditation? Like, why does this work? It works so good. Like, what is, you know, and then I started just like consuming a ton of information about, like the nervous system, neuroplasticity, this, you know, just learning more about breath work and meditation. I heard about tapping. I started tapping, right around that time. And I know, and I could use the tools that I was learning on my own in like a period of like less than 20 minutes a day I was spending. And I could take those tools and like put them into my normal life, like when I was at work in an ICU setting where like all of a sudden my patient was crashing and I would start to feel like my blood pressure come up and I would start to feel my heart rate start going faster and start to feel this like fogginess that comes over your brain that you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my, you know, and I would start to be, and I would use those techniques in those moments and I would be able to like bring myself back down. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can like control this. And yeah, and it just really like evolved pretty rapidly from there where I just like learned a ton about it and was like, this is what I've been missing. This is, and that changed my life.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can tell how passionate you are about it, and you seem like the personality that's just like, once I find something fascinating and interesting that actually works, I can dive deep into it. I am curious, just before I, unpack that a bit more. Are you into personality tests like the Enneagram or human design?
Yeah, I've done both of those.
What are your types?
So my human design is a manifest generator,
Yeah,
which doesn't surprise me at all.
yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about the other types, but like it described me to a T. And the Enneagram, I actually have it right here. I can't really remember what my number was. What was it? I have it right
I
here.
love that you have it right there on hand.
Yeah. Oh yeah, type 1.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Very cool.
Mhm.
So I'm also a
Perfectionist.
manifesting generator. I have a whole nother episode on human design. If you guys want, I can link it in the show notes. You can go listen. But yeah, Enneagram, I thought I was a type one for the past 5 years. And just this year I took the RHETI, RHETI test, which apparently is the most, the best test to take for the Enneagram. You got to pay, I think it's like $40 for it. But turns out I'm a nine. And when I dove deeper into it, I was like, oh gosh, this is so much more on point. But I know a lot about ones because I spent 5 years reading about ones and I love ones. So you named a couple of things that really, really helped you. Meditation, diving into the nervous system, neuroplasticity, and tapping. And I really love using these episodes too as just a chance to define and spread awareness so that we are all on the same page. So if you're listening and you may have heard these buzzwords, when we say nervous system, that's really just it's made up of our brain, our spinal cord, our nerves. It's what carries messages between our brain to our body, body to our brain constantly, and we're unaware of it. The word neuroplasticity, that's just the ability for the brain to form and reorganize connections, especially in response to learning something new or, following an injury. Basically, we're not broken and without hope to change. Like we can actually rewire the the connections, the synapses in our brain. And then tapping, that's just a method that involves tapping on specific meridian points of your body to help manage emotions. And you can do it, like Melissa said, anywhere. She's like in the middle of the ICU, right? And she can use these kinds of things. All of this falls under the umbrella of somatic work. And somatic just is body, which is always right there and available to us, right? We don't have to go anywhere. We can be using somatic tools to regulate our nervous system in the middle of craziness. Um, but it sounds like meditation was really the one that was like, whoa. And I don't know if you're familiar with Young Pueblo. Do you like follow? Okay, he's a speaker, poet, author. He's one of my favorite people to follow. Yeah, on Instagram, his books that he's put out. But meditation was the game changer for him as well. He had a very traumatic, chaotic life upbringing, and this was very similar to what you just described. Oh my God, this is the first time I've ever felt my mind and body calm for the first time in my whole life. And it's interesting because what you were saying earlier about, how you offer your clients all of this stuff and it's not a one size fits all, and you have to let people decide for themselves what actually helps their nervous system, what doesn't. Have you found that with meditation sometimes it's actually more unhelpful depending on the person? And I ask that because I've had clients come through where their nervous system is just in such a state of, dysregulation, survival mode. They're so caught in their head already, constant rumination, constant intrusive thoughts, like cannot get out of their head to drop into their body at all. And so for them, meditation is actually more triggering. And with certain clients, I'll be like, yeah, don't do that right now. For
Yeah.
you, get out of your head, out of your body. I'll pull out something like the five senses, like a grounding tool where they just name five things they can see, four things they can hear, three things they can touch, a grounding tool like that. I'm curious if you've experienced that too with your clients.
Yeah, that's like almost exactly what I do as well. When I do have clients that the meditation is kind of triggering for them, and it's worse because they can't recognize when you're brand new to this journey. I think like part of the battle is recognizing those intrusive thoughts and the rumination and the negative like self-talk that we do, like when you're coming from a place of like severe trauma and stress, chronic stress, and all of that. So when I do encounter that, I will switch to tools like tapping. I find that those tapping is way easier because it actually gives. Personally, when I meditate, I use mantras, but a lot of people, and when I meditate with my clients, it's usually a guided meditation.
Yeah.
But even that is harder versus tapping. I feel like because of the physical part of it, because you're actually tapping on on your body, you're using your body while you're doing the affirmations, I feel like it takes a different part of the brain, and they're not able to do that and have the ruminating thoughts at the same time.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't work, then yeah, totally grounding, 5 4 3 2 1, 100%.
I love that so much. Yeah. And I love just how your main thing is mind body connection. And we do live in a world and in a time where we've just become really detached from our bodies, really caught in our heads. Everything's intellectual, everything's information overload. There's so much beauty to that, that we have information at our fingertips, but we have totally just strayed away from even simple ability to tune into the sensations that are happening in our body. There's a lot of clients when I start work with them that I'm like, yeah, as you bring up this situation, what are you noticing right now in your body? And it's really common for them to be like, I don't know. Like, I've never been asked that. And so I love that this is your main thing. So I'd love to just unpack this deeper. And I'm going to kind of take a different spin on how I want to unpack this, because just last night, my husband and I were talking as we were going to bed, and my mother, right now, we're going through an Alzheimer's journey with her. This is like the biggest thing right now on my heart as far as life challenges go. We recently put her on hospice. It's just been really, really, really hard. And she has had a lot of autoimmune stuff pop up, cirrhosis of the liver, autoimmune hepatitis, hasn't slept well for years, always has had anxiety. There's all of these physical symptoms that the deeper I have gone into nervous system work and learning about how our body keeps the score of the trauma we've survived, and especially how different places in our body are connected to different emotional centers, it's been so hard for me not to like, oh my God, like, what's the word? Just diagnose, like, this is what's going on and why, and you just need to move trauma out of your body, mom. But now it's at this point where it's not about even healing and trying to help her change. Like, it's just loving her for where she's at and holding myself sacred, holding space for her as we journey through this valley. But I wanted to ask you just your thoughts on that, because what I was telling my husband is like, man, this just feels like an in my face visual manifestation of all of the work that I do. And I try to get into the hands of women every day because of this. Like, there's a way that we can actually live life symptom free, and it doesn't have to be normal. It doesn't have to be like just how everyone is, insomniacs and anxiety ridden all the time. So I wanted to open it up, and I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for what you're going through with your mom. That sounds so difficult.
Thank you.
I totally, my like tagline, I guess you could say, is like I say healing is always possible. I 100% agree with you that there like this like I think everything, all symptomatology is physical manifestation of imbalance in the body, and I think it all goes back to the mind body connection and the emotional traumas that we carry with us, and it affects different people differently, right? Like some people have like headaches and gut issues and rashes like I do. Some people have joint pain and or back pain or Alzheimer's or, autoimmune conditions, those sorts of things. I believe that the body is inherently designed to heal always. I think, when you cut your hand, you don't have to think about it. You just it heals on its own. And I think that healing is always possible. I love researching and reading about like spontaneous recovery. Like I find it fascinating, and I feel like it just drives that point into my mind and my bones even more, that like spontaneous recovery is so fascinating, because like why is it that some people are diagnosed with like stage 4 cancer and they're told they have 3 months to live, and
Yeah.
then 2 weeks later they have no cancer in their body? Like it's every time you read about it, every single time anybody has that happen, it's all about their frame of mind, their mindset and the emotional work that they do. When they learn that they're going to, like, that they have this terminal diagnosis, if they believe that they have a terminal diagnosis and they're going to die, they're going to prove themselves right. That's going to happen. If they are like, no, I refuse to accept this, this is not my reality, and they live their life as if that is not true, that the opposite is true, I am going to survive, they will. Every single time that you read about it, that's what you find. It's just fascinating. I think the body, the nervous system, the mind body connection is at the root of all illness.
You know what's so wild about this? Like, never, ever have I ever, bringing back the 90s game, have I ever in like a typical Western medical setting ever heard a doctor say that? Like never was there a prescription or a suggestion for healing where it's like, bring your mind body connection into this. And so much of your healing has to do with your limiting beliefs. Like it was a constant prescription or suggestion for something outside of myself to
Yeah.
fix me instead of something from within.
Yeah. And I focus so heavily on mindset in my practice because I think that like it's all connected. Like the trauma piece creates this like micro-inflammatory environment within your body, and it creates like imbalance within your body, but it all stems back to your mindset and like the rumination and the negative thoughts and the negative self-talk, and lack of that creates this environment where people stop caring for themselves and they store this, like the body keeps the score, like what you just said, that book, that the body keeps that energy.
Mm-hmm.
Emotion is energy in motion, and when you keep that energy inside of your body, you don't release it, it just creates chaos. It creates a chaotic, inflammatory, imbalanced environment, and that's when physical manifestations develop.
I was just listening to a podcast before hopping on here, and they were talking about that emotion is energy in motion. And it's also interesting you brought up the spontaneous recoveries because I was watching a video yesterday as a woman's story who I'm going to have up on the podcast here soon, but she lost her son to a heroin overdose, and he was in a coma for 8 days. And right as they were getting ready to transfer him, because he was non-responsive, like very little brain activity, they were ready to transfer him to the hospital where he could pass. One of the nurses in that moment, even though he wasn't responding to anything for 8 days, said, "You doing okay, Ryan?" And like clear as day, he said, "Yep, 100%." And the nurse literally dropped her tray, like dropped all the things she was carrying. Like the mother and father buckled over. I have chills right now talking about it. She was saying how everyone in that room just was like, what's happening right now? And I forget how much longer he was able to be with them, totally responsive. I don't know if it was a day or a couple of days, but in that time, like there was joking, there was sarcasm. He was making comments about Beyonce. Like he was totally him and remembered everyone in his family, by name. And it was this like last minute gift and miracle that his mom was
Wow.
speaking about. So I'm going to have her on the podcast soon. But
That's so incredible.
just wild that you bring that up, of all days. I just heard that story yesterday.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. So one of the most common questions I get from just listeners, clients is, how do you know if a physical symptom is indicating trauma? Is it always trauma, or is there ever just a physical root to it? Do you get that question? How do you respond?
I think that I have been asked that before, and I think that all physical symptoms are some sort of manifestation from, like they say, like 95% of illness is either caused by stress or worsened by stress.
Mm,
I feel like it's like 100%. I feel like I can almost always, like, if we heal the body and don't touch the mind stuff, or heal the mind and don't touch the body stuff, like you're not going to get complete healing. And I feel like almost all the time when I'm talking, not almost all the time when I'm talking to clients, the physical symptoms can always be rooted back to emotional symptoms. And if you heal those emotional symptoms and heal that trauma, in addition to doing the things with your body, like looking at the lab testing, improving your nutrition, your lifestyle, detoxifying your body, all of that, you can achieve like symptom-free living.
Yeah, I love that. The gut brain connection is also a buzzword term. Can you just define that Dummies 101 version, why so many people are talking about that, why it's important?
So the gut and the brain are connected through what's called the vagus nerve. And that's like part of your nervous system. It's one of the biggest nerves in your body that carries all of the messages from your brain to the rest of your body. That's like the main highway that those messages go to, and it goes directly into your gut. And your gut is like, they call your gut the second brain. Your gut houses over 80% of your immune system. It's responsible for all of your neurotransmitter production. And those are like the little pieces of mail that go from one place in the body to the other, and it like delivers the message, or it is the message, I should say, that is being delivered to somewhere else in the body. It's responsible for so many like vitamins and healthy. Your gut microbiome is a balance of good bacteria and bad bacteria, and they all send signals and hormones and all kinds of stuff. So when you have that, when you have so that gut brain connection is responsible for keeping that highway open, like that vagus nerve, and keeping that clear connection from the gut and the brain. If you have trauma, it inhibits that connection.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think our gut should be called the first brain. I know it's called the
Yeah.
second, but because of what you said, 80% of the messaging comes from our gut to our brain and not the other way around.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, this is just a tangent and whatever, but when we say mental health, I'm like, I feel like there should be a different term, because the mental part is really just 20% of the puzzle. 80% is really what's going on in our body, our nervous system, kind of from the neck down. So maybe we can think of another term to
Yeah.
more describe what's happening.
I
Um,
love holistic health because that's like the whole person, you
there you
know?
go. Let's start a trend, Melissa. Call it holistic
Yeah.
health from now on. The last question that I'd love to ask you, because I could pick your brain on a million other things, but another common one is when people hear conversations like this about moving trauma out of the body, one of the most common questions is just like, what does that actually mean? Like, it can seem a little bit too woo or kind of out in the air. Like, what does that look like and mean when we move trauma out of the body?
So, like we talked about, emotion is energy in motion. And so when you have this emotion that you're like stuffing down or not addressing, or just trying to forget about it, like just get over it and not actually process that emotion, like energy is a physical thing, even though you can't necessarily see it. And so when you have that emotion, it stores inside of your body. I imagine it like a ping pong ball, just like going like this, just all over your body. Just imagine that. And when you have all of that, and it just sits in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like and it's not flowing through your body properly and getting out. So that's why I love like somatic work, like tapping, meditation, that kind of thing, because you can actually process the energy and get it out. You're not you're not necessarily going to like feel different after one like tapping session, or it's not like you're going to see the energy like come out of you. But you're going to, over time, you'll start to notice improvements. And it's a practice, like anything, like medicine, like riding a bike, like calligraphy, anything that you do, it's a practice, right? The more you do it, the better you get at it. So yeah, I think that's what it is. It's just getting that energy out. And in my practice, I get asked a lot, like, how are you different from a therapist? Because I'm not a therapist. I'm a nurse by trade. I still hold an active RN license, but I'm not practicing as an RN. I am not a therapist. I think therapists, they focus more on the past and kind of revisiting that kind of over and over again, like talking about it, thinking about it. And in my practice, like I don't even necessarily need to know the specifics of the experiences. Like your
Mhm.
experience is valid.
Yep.
Anything that you've been through, it's completely valid. And I can understand, trauma and how it manifests and how you feel as a result of that trauma. But it's almost not applicable, or it doesn't really matter as far as like processing it out. I don't even need to know the specifics of that to get it through your body.
Yeah, totally. I think it's a myth that you have to go backwards in order to heal forward. And
Yeah.
I found the same thing. That's been such a cool myth to bust even in myself because I was wondering why I was in therapy for so many years, retelling the same old stories and wondering why I still felt stuck and spinning my wheels at best, and then re-traumatized in some situations because I kept going back to the past and opening these cans of worms that was like just re-traumatizing my body. And so it's been awesome to see, you actually can start right here. I tell clients, if you want to share past details and it's not going to like keep you stuck or, re-traumatize you, go for it. But I don't need to know any of that in order for us to create a roadmap to moving forward. And
Yeah.
I do love the way you described like how trauma actually moves out of the body. It can feel a little like because we can't see it, right, visually, but it makes me think about telephone wires, right? There's like constant electricity and currents running through that, and it's something we can feel. If we touch the wrong part of a telephone wire, we get zapped, or if there's like a kink in the system somehow, it can lead to fires, explosions. And so that's what it makes me think of with our nervous system. We can't see it visually, but we sure can feel it, and when things get stuck, it creates emotional fires and, conflict in our interpersonal relationships and all of that. So it's
Yeah.
been really cool to, yeah, just learn this and pass it to my kids. Ollie, my son, he's like almost 8 in July, but he got so angry the other day. And I just led him through a little sacred rage session in his room. I was like, punch the pillow, shake your body. Like, I'm here with you. Do you want me to scream with you? And within like 2 minutes, he's like, I'm good. He was laughing again. And that kind of stuff used to keep him stuck forever. Like it would just metastasize in his body. And it would take forever to get out. And I feel like it took me 34 years to learn how simple even moving that kind of stuff out of the body can be. And now I'm like, I hope you're way better off than me, bud. And don't
Yeah.
have 3 decades of suppressed anger in your body.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. Yeah. I have had this similar experiences with my kids. And I
Oh,
just feel so like, I feel like my whole purpose in life, like the reason why I help people, help other women, is because I want other women to be able to break the cycle too. Like I have 5 generations of trauma in my family, of like abuse and addiction and all of that. And my mom now is on her healing journey in her 60s, but
whoa.
like, and I'll be 40 next year, but like I'm on my, started my healing journey in my 20s. Like
Yeah.
imagine now my kids who are 3 and 8, like, imagine where I would have been if my mom would have started her healing journey in her 20s, like where I would be now. So like I feel like I'm a cycle breaker, and that's what I
Yeah.
want that's why I help other women, is because I want them to be able to break the cycle too.
You're such an inspiration and just such a testament to even the process of metamorphosis. When, just to wrap this up, I'm reflecting back on the moment you said there was suicidal ideation and there was thoughts of like, no, I'm out. And now I'm like, I can't imagine that, with knowing how many women that you're helping. You're breaking your own family's generational, cycles and chains, and just the impact that you're making now, Melissa. I'm just like, thank you, God, that she resiliently survived through that cocoon period where it felt very constricting and dark and like life was over. When really this was what was on the other side. If only you could have seen that at that point. But
Yeah.
I know so many people listening may be in their cocoon piece right now. And so I just hope this is a reminder that you do have a divine purpose to be here, that there is something beautiful that we just don't know yet and don't have a visual of yet on the other side. But Melissa, thank you for being on. Where can people find you? And if they are resonating with this, what are some, yeah, steps they can take to get connected with you?
Yeah, so you can look me, my website is holistichealthbymelissa.com. And there's a work with me button. You can apply to work with me. If you want to just hop on a quick 15-minute call, we can talk about what you're going through. We can see if I can help you. And then social media, I'm at Holistic Health by Melissa on all social media platforms. I'm mostly on Instagram, but you can find me anywhere.
Thank you, Melissa. Well, I hope we talk again soon and appreciate you being on.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much.